Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be bringing back a fan favorite Open Great League Pokemon that I feel is secretly pretty strong right now, and that is Shadow Sableye. In my Great League games, I was seeing a huge decrease in Diggersby usage, so I felt that it was the right time to bring out the Shadow Sableye, and honestly, it performed great today. I think I went 9-4 across games with this team. Now, the team that I built is very unbalanced. It's ABA weak to a lot of things, so I don't know if I necessarily recommend this particular team for climbing, but I definitely recommend Shadow Sableye. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, we pick up a pretty okay lead, Fortress into Shadow Marowak. Now, the team I am running features the Fortress on the lead, Shadow Sableye as the safe switch, running Foul Play and Dazzling Gleam, and Credilli as the closer. So as you can tell, this team does have quite a few ABA weaknesses. Annihilate, it's ABA weak too, and Diggersby, it's also ABA weak as well. My goal in this lead matchup is to soft lose it and set up a big farm for Shadow Sableye, as I feel that Shadow Sableye energy is very good into this current meta. They're not going to let me farm down, instead they're going to pivot into a Azumarill, but I get to bank so much energy on Sableye and bring out Credilli. Credilli, unfortunately, cannot quite acid this into a range where Grass Knot will KO, so I may as well not throw the move, shield, and look to farm up to 100 energy. This way, I can guarantee that I'll exit with a ton of energy, and make my opponent's life very uncomfortable if they decide to bring back in the Marowak. Grass Knot is going to land, that sets up a perfect acid farm down, back in comes the Marowak, and Marowak is immediately under threat from the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to land, down goes the Marowak, in the back is Lapras, and this game is over. I'm able to grab a shield with this Rock Tomb guaranteed, but the big thing is going to be the attack drop, as now my opponent is not going to be able to Psywave me into Sparkling Aria range. My Shadow Sableye just has too much bulk. My Sableye not running Power Gem, so I can only hit for neutral damage here, but even still, I am in a winning position because, again, I can't get knocked out by Sparkling Aria. I will shield in case they go for the Ice Beam, but they do not, and I will CMP tie the Foul Play with their second Aria. This Foul Play is going to connect to Lapras, barely hangs on, surviving with fractional HP, but Sparkling Aria number 2 will not KO. One Shadow Claw from the Sableye will be enough to take the win. We see a Dream lead in the next match, leading into a Malamar. Opponent safe switches into Clodsire, and I get to respond with the Shadow Sableye. I'm very content going down a shield in this mid-game matchup if it means that I can exit pretty close to a Dazzling Gleam, because ideally, I want to be able to either basically one-shot the Malamar or force their final shield. My opponent will not bait, they're able to land that Earthquake, and now I will go for a slight undercharge on the Foul Play. This will allow me to still only have to shield once, but again, exit with that Dazzling Gleam loaded, or almost ready to go. Here, I will get the farm down. I'm actually one short of the Dazzling Gleam, but I will get there. And now my opponent is going to be in an awkward spot. They can't afford to shield this. Dazzling Gleam lands. They almost get one shot. And in the back is Diggersby. Diggersby now just going to be met with the Credilli. Credilli still in a pretty decent spot, even though my opponent is obviously up energy and up a shield. That's basically what Diggersby needs to have a chance against Credilli ever. I feel like baiting here is far too risky. They are probably going to end up double shielding, but I really feel like the only way that I lose this game is if they no-shield Rock Tomb, so I'm just going to keep spamming out Grass Knots and guaranteeing shields from my opponent. All shields are down. They should not be baiting here, so I will go for the shield as they have to fish for debuffs, and they do get the Scorching Sands attack drop. That's a little bit unfortunate, but as long as they don't get a second one, I should still be fine here. Now I will get to land the Grass Knot. This is a -1 Grass Knot, not nearly as threatening as it typically would be, but the threat of another Grass Knot will force my opponent to not farm down and instead fire off the Fire Punch. Nice thing here is their Malamar is basically 1 HP after the Dazzling Gleam landed. This is not Sand Tomb range, but it should be Rock Tomb range. So after the Fire Punch lands, I'll farm up to the Rock Tomb, and this will secure me the win. It is resisted damage, but the Diggersby is too low. Down goes the Diggersby, one Bug Bite later, and that's a win. Let's move to the next match, and it's a pretty neutral lead for Fortress once again, leading into Swampert. My goal is to tank a Hydro, Rock Tomb, tank Hydro number 2, and then once their energy dry, look to pivot in the Shadow Sableye to get an energy head start. That Hydro Cannon will do a solid amount of damage, but I can ensure that I survive Hydro number 2 by firing off the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb will land. There is going to be the Hydro Cannon fired off by the Swampert, and now it's time. Shadow Sableye hits the field. It's a simultaneous safe switch. Sableye into Blastoise. So far, my opponent is running ABA Water. Surely their third Pokemon will be beating the grass types. A lot of people running very unbalanced style teams at the moment. I fire off the Foul Play, and I'm able to grab the shield. This specifically being the non-Shadow Blastoise is worse for the Shadow Sableye, as I don't think I can quite Shadow Claw it into a range where Foul Play will KO. However, even if this move doesn't knock out, I still will have the ability to catch. So when they survive, I switch into the Fortress and we're able to absorb that Hydro Cannon. Now I will get to bring back in the Shadow Sableye. Sableye gets the Shadow Claw farm down. In the back is Jumpluff, and I should just be winning here. Jumpluff is going to have to respect the potential Power Gem, so a bait here feels very safe. They should throw right before I get the Power Gem, so I actually CMP tie them here with a Foul Play. Foul Play is going to connect, and that works out great for me, as now they're in a range where I can knock them out with a Rock Tomb. Aerial Ace is going to land, I can send in the Credilli, and it's just checkmate at this point. Jumpluff is going to realize it and concede the match. We get a dream lead in the next match, Fortress into Shadow Abomasnow. I haven't seen Abomasnow in a while. They save switch into Primeape, and I'm very lucky here that I'm able to align Primeape onto my one Pokemon on the team that can actually beat it, and that is Sableye. These Shadow Claws do so much damage. I'm very comfortable giving up a shield because I know that I will get a lot of damage onto the Abomasnow in return. My opponent has no reason to ever shield because they cannot win switch against Sableye, so they're always just going to let it through, and now once they bring back in the Abomasnow, I can start launching moves with the Sableye. I figure the double Foul Play route is going to be the safest way to go. Foul Play will land, I get Foul Play number 2, and my opponent can now not shield this, because their energy won't go anywhere into the Fortress. So when they shield, I know something's very wrong, and now we see it. They were just running very, very ABA weak to the Fortress, hoping that a Fortress would never show up, but unfortunately, a Fortress is here, and there's just no way out for my opponent, as not only are they going to struggle immensely against the Credilli, but their remaining 2 Pokemon can't even damage this Fortress whatsoever. Unfortunately, even with shielding and throwing the Ice Beam, they just don't have a way to stall out the switch timer, so I will get to fire off the Grass Knot. My opponent is going to concede the match. We move to the next match, and what a core breaker. Oh my goodness, Fortress into Shadow Magnezone, but it's a Metal Sound Magnezone. Interesting. And what's also interesting is that Magnezone's health bar getting deleted by resisted bug bites. That does not look resisted at all. Oh my goodness, this poor Magnezone. I'm not quite sure of Metal Sound counts, so I'm just going to be double shielding the Fortress. Doesn't feel great when I have a Shadow Sableye in the back, but at the very least, I will be able to apply pressure onto whatever gets switched in here. It's going to be a Shadow Giratina Altered. That's a very cool pick. Now, I should have a pretty straightforward path in this game. Land the Rock Tomb, wait for them to throw their Shadow Sneak or Ancient Power, and then send in the Sableye for an incredibly aggressive farm down. In comes the Sableye. Sableye not going to be too worried about a debuffed Shadow Claw, even though it's Shadow on Shadow damage, so I'm able to absorb that damage and fully farm all the way down. And this energy is going to be a big problem for whatever they have in the back. They can't bring in the Magnezone. They're going to bring in a Shadow Dragonite, so they're running Metal Sound Magnezone Double Dragon, a very cool team. Unfortunately, Sableye already has the back-to-back Foul Plays, and this is just too much damage. The moment this lands, I'm switching into Credilli, looking for the acid down. There's going to be the switch into the Magnezone, but it's not quick enough. We make the Rock Tomb. That's going to be good night to the Magnezone, and then all that's left is a Dragonite that is too low to 1v3. We move to the next match, going up against the trainer who is the first legend in the world this season, and we get a Nightmare lead, leading into an Annihilate with Fortress Credilli Core. I save switch into my only answer, the Shadow Sableye. I'm met with a Tinkaton, and things are off to an incredibly rough start. My opponent does farm up to the Play Rough. I will respect it, and they do full send the Play Rough, so that honestly works out very nicely for me. I now farm up a ton of energy with the Sableye, hoping to try and pressure a shield from my opponent. The Foul Play is going to grab the shield, they farm up, they play to a CMP tie that they do not win, and I'm going for the Dazzling Gleam. Foul Play would not knock out, but a Dazzling Gleam will, and that's very good news for me. In comes the Annihilate, able to farm down, they pay a heavy price, and now I bring back in the Fortress. Even though I switched in my only counter, I was able to get some valuable damage onto the Annihilate. Annihilate is now going to be debuffed with a Sand Tomb, really hoping they decide to let this go. It's not a lot of damage, but my opponent senses that I'm weak, and they will end up using a shield. And that's a problem, as now I'm just going to take so much damage. In comes the Credilli, and look at the counters go. This is very unfortunate. I will commit the shield, but they're just too boosted. They switch out into a Zoom Whirl, and maybe there's a chance. I will get the double Grass Knot right as they make their Ice Beam. Credilli is, of course, going to win charge attack priority. Now, the question is, can I Acid down the Annihilate before they counter me down? My Acids are resisted. Their counters are super effective. It's going to be a long shot here. And unfortunately, we fall just shy against the Core Breaker. We get a much better lead in the next match, leading into Credilli. Opponent safe switches into Feraligatr. Now, I don't have a great response to a Feraligatr up energy on this team, except for just staying in with the Fortress. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm more than happy to play the zeros here, because if I play the zeros, this can set up a sick farm down for either Credilli or Sableye, depending on what I feel has more value. Considering my opponent led with a Credilli, I think that my Credilli up energy will be very good. So I play the zeros with Fortress, get a big energy head start, and the moment my opponent brings in their own Credilli, I know they are weak in the back. So this should hopefully be pretty good for me, especially when they shield the first Rock Tomb. I'm actually going to be pivoting out here. I want to save some energy. I need to figure out what they have in the back so I know if I have a chance to beat it. In the back is an Air/Mandibuzz, and I'm feeling very good about my ability to win this game. Shadow Sableye will output immense pressure onto Mandibuzz with Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam, while not one-shotting, would remove almost their entire health bar. What's going to win me this game is going to be energy management on my Sableye. So I'm more than happy to burn both shields and then always look to make sure that I have a ton of residual energy. This will make any potential switch into Credilli way more difficult for my opponent because I always have residual energy that I can use to outpace them. Dazzling Gleam lands, I continue the farm, there's the switch into Credilli, and I just have way too much energy on this Sableye already at the back-to-back foul plays. I will throw them here, and this should just about knock out Credilli. Foul play lands, Credilli hangs on with 1 HP, but that's honestly better for me, as now I will get a 1 acid head start on my own Credilli. So I will get the farm down, I'm not in foul play range from the Mandibuzz, and my opponent will resign the match. We move to the next match, and we see an incredibly bad lead, leading Fortress into Dedenne. Now, this is another Pokemon that this team is ABA weak to. It's part of why I mentioned this team, even though it did get a lot of wins, I don't personally recommend this specific team. Now, my opponent is going to respond to my Credilli save switch with an Annihilate, and that is really not great news for me. Annihilate will no-shield the Grass Knot. That does do a massive amount of damage, and Annihilate, I'm hoping, is in range for 1 Shadow Claw and KO. If that's the case, then this is actually really good for me. I bring in the Sableye, they live on 1 HP, and I think that might doom me. If I didn't have to go down a shield, I would have been fine, but now I'm down a shield, and this is really bad. Oh, that is devastating. If I realized that they were going to survive the Shadow Claw, I would have just brought in the Fortress and then 2-shielded the Sableye later on, but now I think I'm probably lost. I go for the Dazzling Gleam. Oh my goodness, my opponent catches onto Chestnut. Chestnut is going to get absolutely crushed by this Dazzling Gleam. Oh my goodness. Unfortunately, it's still not going to matter because my opponent still has 2 shields and a Dedenne to hide behind. I tried to make this one as close as I could. I think if I didn't have to burn the shield on Annihilate surviving on 1 HP, I could have actually won this game and overcome the Dedenne lead, but unfortunately, it was not to be, as the Dedenne will get to absolutely destroy Sableye with a Play Rough, and my opponent will take the win. We hop into the final match, and it's a familiar lead from earlier, leading Fortress into Malamar. My opponent safe switches into the Clodsire, and at first, I was wondering if this was the same trainer that I battled earlier, but I went back and checked the names, and it appears this is 2 different trainers, both running Malamar. I think Malamar is a really cool idea in this meta, because if it's able to avoid the bugs, Malamar has such unbelievably good neutral matchups, but unfortunately, the bugs are very much real, and it makes life very uncomfortable. Here, my opponent ended up Sludge Bomb baiting. I'm running a high rank Sableye, so I can live in EQ very comfortably and not get Poison Stung down. Foul play will be enough to pick up the knockout, and now this poor Malamar is about to get sent back to the Pokeball unless they shield. Dazzling Gleam is gonna land, they get KO'd in the back. Oh my goodness. If this was a regular Talonflame, then I might not feel as worried as I feel right now. It's the Shadow Talonflame, but luckily for me, they do not have Flame Charge. If it was a Shadow with Flame Charge, I think I actually lose this game. But thankfully, they do not have Flame Charge, which means that I think I can barely survive this fly and make another Rock Tomb. My opponent thinks so as well. They go for the Brave Bird, and now I should be able to just bring in the Sableye and Shadow Claw everything down. Sableye, oh, we barely hang on to the Incinerate, get the farm down, and secure the win. All in all, I really feel like Shadow Sableye was the star of the team in these battles. It consistently was able to provide extremely flexible play with its energy, and even in matchups where it ended up in tough situations, like against Amandabuzz, Dazzling Gleam coverage was incredibly good. I think that Shadow Sableye earlier in the season really struggled quite a bit, but there's a few meta conditions occurring right now that definitely make the meta environment just a little bit more favorable. The first of which is a bit of a decline in Diggersby usage. Diggersby usage is falling off a little bit more as people opt for different ground types, whether that's Gligar, whether that's the Shadow Marowak, which I know is absolutely everywhere. And with the fall off of Diggersby, and Diggersby being such a big problem for Sableye, that can allow Sableye just a little bit more wiggle room. Now, if you add to that the fact that Shadow Giratina altered arrived not too long ago with a rank 1 on PvPoke for the Great League, and everyone is testing out this Mon, figuring out the matchups and stuff like that, a lot of the times, if you run something that's very strong into kind of the new toy that everyone's testing out, you can have some pretty nice results. Obviously, I didn't see a ton of Giratinas in these games, but even still, I really felt like Shadow Sableye was able to put in quite a bit of work. Now, obviously, if Diggersby and Wigglytuff pick up a ton in usage with the Go Battle weekend coming up soon, then it may not be the right time for Sableye, and Sableye's window may fade once again. But for the current moment, I honestly felt like Shadow Sableye was really strong today. Shadow Sableye, in a lot of situations, as I mentioned, felt like it was a rare Pokemon that could actually provide some neutral play in a meta where, unfortunately, there's not a ton of it. I do hope that whatever move updates we end up getting, obviously I'm recording this before I travel to Worlds, so we may get move update information at Worlds. I hope that whatever meta changes happen and whatever new meta gets ushered in September, that Shadow Sableye is able to have a role, because Shadow Sableye is just such a fun Pokemon to play. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so incredibly appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.